Hey everyone, my name is Jason Grillo, and I'm here to introduce solar support for our product showcase. We've got solar support here. Cliff Myers is with solar support. Hi, Cliff.
Hi.
And we're especially happy to see Austin Tabor, CEO of Solar Support.
Hey, how we doing, guys?
Doing great. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Hey, everyone.
Good. So with that in mind, Austin, Cliff, please, love to hear more about your products and services.
Perfect. Yes. So my name is Austin Tabor. I'm the CEO and founder of Solar Support. The big thing we're doing here at Solar Support is that we're restoring sites that have been impacted by natural disasters. My expertise, I have about 13 years in the solar industry, specifically working at pretty much every level, but the majority of that time has been spent in the utility sector. And now, Cliff, it's your turn, buddy.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm with DEPCOM Power. Cliff Myers, the director of 3R, which is restoration, recertification, and repowering. I'm a former Navy vet, spent about 6 years in the Navy working on missile guidance systems and inverter technology. So overall, I've got, about 15 years experience with utility inverter technology. Also a professional engineer at Arizona State University.
Awesome. Thanks, bud. Someone who's not here, who is part of our operation within the restoration activities, the third part of our wheel here, who's not represented, Mr. George Lang over at Power Factor. Awesome guy. He helps us out. We'll get more into Power Factor's role in these recovery services coming up, but wanted to give a big shout out to him. And then me and Cliff, we have worked together at two separate companies now in the last 13 years or so. And we've become close friends. We spent a lot of time working together, utility scale power plants on central inverters, recommissioning sites, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I got a lot of experience going back to, really the beginning of the solar boom here in the U.S. And so I just want to add one thing. I just want to say, listen, really sorry. We were promising some really good videos and content on a wind damage case. Unfortunately, this morning things got a little bit mixed up. So we've had to step back and retool what we're going to do here today. So we're going to cover the flood damage case again. Hopefully, give you some more detail on what we did there, and eventually we're going to navigate this wind damage case and get that republished. And we'll come back out with another video to follow that up when we do. In the meantime, I suggest logging into our LinkedIn page, liking that, following that, and downloading our white paper, where you can get a lot of the details there from both cases.
Thanks, bud. So now we're going to share not a live video. We're going to share a video with you guys real quick, just kind of setting the scene for everything that happened with this restoration project. So go ahead and start playing that right now.
Here's what you need to know about Hurricane Florence. It is shaping up to deliver disaster for days to the Carolina coast. Florence is now expected to pause right at North Carolina's coast, shift south, and pose even greater danger.
Hurricane Florence is making landfall after thrashing the Carolinas all night long with devastating flooding and damaging winds. Forecasters are warning that Florence's storm surge is life-threatening and will be even worse at high tide later this morning.
Hurricane Florence definitely making its presence felt. Strong winds continuing to slam into the Carolinas. But the real concern is the potential for water damage.
Leave. Go ahead and leave and go to find high ground, because you may be in danger. This is a big, big storm.
So I got to say that, I'm really happy to be here, and this is an exciting topic for both myself and Austin. We're both really passionate about taking care of the industry, doing what's right, and ultimately fixing stuff. But even though I'm happy about this, smiling, this is a pretty serious issue, and it's really prevalent across the industry. Especially on the East Coast, you end up with plants, having severe losses, multi-million-dollar losses. And this quote here from GCube just highlights how big of an issue it is. And we've recognized this as a gap in the market. A lot of times, companies have a plan to prevent situations like this, but you're not always going to withstand the weather. And it doesn't seem like a lot of people have a plan on what to do when your plant is damaged. And that's what we're here to help with.
Exactly. And in some cases, what we have is we have people literally waiting to act on these because, they really don't have a plan in place. They really don't have a lot going on yet. And before we jump into that, I now want to move into introducing the companies that we're working together with. So first off is Solar Support. We're reliability experts. We have over 25 years of experience, hands-on boosting PV plant performance. We have a plethora of diagnostics, repair, corrective maintenance skills. And then our role in these activities, we are essentially the restoration team leader. We're doing all of the project and construction management. We're doing the engineering expertise, and we're right there on the ground with the rest of the team, making sure that if there are issues or if the plan's not working right, we redirect it to make sure it's going the right direction.
Yep. So for DEPCOM Power, I like to say that we're the muscle. We're a top 5 EPC company and O&M. And, we take a lot of pride in what we do, but we stand in here as the full scope or full service general contractor. Effectively, we are the one throat to choke. So we bear the contract risk as the single point of contact, and we stand behind any of the warranties or the guarantees.
Yep. And our third partner who's not here to be present for this is Power Factor. Like I mentioned before, Mr. George Lang. And what they bring to the table here is specialized manpower. They have a deep expertise in repower, recommissioning, restoration. All of their team members are incredibly skilled. So when you want the right guys on site last minute, typically if there's a package or something needs to get delivered to site, there's a guy in a car with a Power Factor hat that's driving that stuff to site. So they are our number one partner in providing that on-site labor and expertise for the installation and commissioning. Cool. Once again, just another reminder, we have a link at the bottom with our white paper. If you don't mind checking that out, we'll go over this case study and another case study to kind of show you guys, showcase our skills, how quickly we can respond, how fast we can get things put back together. Yeah,
a lot of good detail in that.
Yes. So, everyone has a disaster preparedness plan. Even for your home, for your families, you have that disaster preparedness plan. What do you do? For PV plants, everything's supposed to go to stow. You're supposed to make sure that everything's set. But what about after the fact? Do you have a plan put together for if there's some kind of issue on your site where it's been impacted by a storm, tornado, whatever? Do you have a plan in place to know what to do after that happens? And that's exactly what we're going to talk about with this case study coming up right now.
Yep. Yes. So what we're going to talk about in this case, and sorry for everybody who joined next week, you're going to get some of the some similar content. We got new photos up here, and hopefully we'll share some new details with you that you didn't hear last time. White paper covers it all, but we're going to talk about in this case, the O&M provider had a hurricane prevention plan. But they couldn't prevent the flooding. These plants are designed to handle water that meets or exceeds 100-year trends. And in this case, this was just a massive amount of rainfall. I believe the hurricane, if I remember right, it came through this part of North Carolina, wrapped around, and came back through again. So it was just dumping water. And in this situation, 10 inverters were completely flooded. We'll show you where the water line was. So what this boils down to is responding after the fact. We've witnessed situations where clients have waited months to get help because there isn't a go-to resource in the industry. And a lot of the teams that are out there, they don't have the bandwidth to handle this. This is part of why we have such a strong partnership with Power Factor and Solar Support. But in this case, we were able to respond rapidly. We developed a really unique plan to take care of these inverters, which were effectively condemned by the OEM. and a way to restore it in the interim. So we'll cover all of that going forward.
Perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys another video. This is a rundown of a couple weeks after the flooding had occurred. So I'm gonna put that on.
Yeah, I'm not hearing the audio on it, Austin. So maybe we can add some commentary to it. Yeah, I would say one key thing in this situation is probably the limiting factor, to be honest, was getting that initial response from the OEM. When you've got products that are in warranty, you have to let them do their due diligence, even though hey, it's probably going to result in your warranty being revoked, and rightfully so. But in this situation, the OEM came out and said, yeah, of course, we can't continue the warranty. These are completely flooded. So you've got condemned units, and we were able to step up in this case, and DEPCOM put together a plan for how we could get those back in operation, and how we could honor the warranty, the remainder of the warranty that they had.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm going to go into our first slideshow to kind of show you where the water levels were on site. This is a really rough drawing, but you can see, the water levels were where they were inside the inverter. These are not watertight enclosures. They're basically they're not even airtight. They're close to airtight, but definitely not watertight. So you had water intrusion into the units, and that brings up some major safety issues. These were powered down, but in some cases you may come on site with situations like this, and you do not know, if this has been de-energized or not. So safety is a huge concern here.
Yeah, I would add, you're always critical of safety on your power plants, but in a disaster situation like this, if there's ever a time to be, well, there's always a time to be hypercritical, but I would say you've got to be hypercritical. I mean, you've got live conductors everywhere. Parts can be torn out. Areas that you don't expect to be energized are energized. Austin and I have seen from the road flooded plants with inverters that were still operating. You could hear them operating while they were underwater. So you just got to be extremely cautious.
Yep. I'm going to jump into the next restoration video, which shows the progress we made as we were putting this all back together. And then we'll walk you guys through the plan of what that looked like. So once again, Cliff, you can kind of talk over this. That'd be great.
Okay. Yeah. So, again, with this plant, we showed up on site. There was a lot of initial planning, but we knew the urgency to get these units back up and operational. So as soon as these were condemned, we moved to finding an IE, which was solar support, to come out there and evaluate them and build this plan to say, if you do these things, these units can run, at least in the interim. They're already condemned, right? The final recommendation was, hey, from the OEM, completely replace the units. In the end, we were able to, keep them running, and that saved, 4 months of downtime where these inverters would have been left offline until you've procured new transformers, new inverters, delivered them, and installed them. So it's just a massive amount of time, and we were able to help avoid that in this case.
Yep. So walking you guys through the plan we went through with this particular site, we basically said, hey, we got these inverters. We got to get them up off the ground, everything de-energized, safed out, lottoed, lift these skids up. And at that point, you can see from the videos, from the photos, we were lifting these, very carefully. Once we had them up in the air, we have all these conductors that are, completely exposed. So making sure the DC was safe. A lot of times DC combiner boxes, they do not cut the negative. They don't disconnect it. So you have that exposure level that, to a floating ground on the negative side, floating negative, that can cause injury. So you have to safe off everything prior to getting to the stage.
Yeah, there were, in this particular project, there were over 600 splices, and we were able to do the work with such high quality that it's been operating for over a year now with no issues on any of that splice work, and so confident in the work that we do and the ability to stand behind our guarantees that these came with a 10-year warranty. So any workmanship issues that come up over the next 10 years on these splices, because it's a big deal to do that number of splices, but that's all covered. taken care of.
Yep. And so the next step for this was, prepping the vault. So we had to build these vaults out of masonry blocks. There wasn't time in order to get the, what would you call that? The, Cliff, help me. What's it called? The money for the lot production. Yeah. So
the business interruption.
Business interruption. That's what it was. In order to get that, we had to, because the client had waited so long, we had to get this running as fast as possible. There wasn't time to do precast concrete vaults to put in place. So we had to improvise on site. And what we essentially did is we built vaults. You can see we've got some DEPCOM employees here sitting on the wall that we built. And then we just set these skids right down on top of this. And Cliff, I'm going to speed up a little bit here.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see the step where, we put this down in place, locking it all in. And you can see from, I must have left that photo out because I'm a bad person. But you can see once it's all finished that these things, they sit right on top of there really well. And the final results, this is all for you, Cliff.
Yeah. So, I don't want to beat a dead horse with the unique idea that we came up with in this case. But what I will say is that, insurance companies, their job is not to help you gain from a situation like this. It's simply to reinstate the plant back to its original condition. No better, no worse. But what I will say is with this solution, one, we were able to save a lot of money obviously for the insurance company, but also for the owner. The ability to, in the force majeure claim early, to recover that the business interruption revenue, and then on the back end, having DEPCOM honor these warranties. These 10 inverters are operating way better than the remaining. Anyway, they're operating better than the inverters under the OEM's warranty. And I mentioned it last time, but we're at 99.9% availability on these 10 units that were underwater. But it just goes to show what planning and the ability to be flexible can provide.
Yeah, exactly, Cliff. And another point to touch on with this, it took a long time to get a response. I mean, with the hurricanes going on, there's multiple sites that were impacted all over the area, and so a lot of other contractors were all scrambling to get to these sites to get the work done. So you have all those issues, and if you don't have that plan in place, if you don't have something set up to where you can, reach out for help when you need it with people that you know and trust, you're not going to get your site back up and operational in a timely manner. This work was unprecedented. I don't know if I've heard of going back to a site to raise skids before. This is something that really hasn't been done before. And while there were hiccups here and there, overall it went incredibly well. The initial plan took about a month to put together, and then we were on site, within a few weeks of the contract being signed. And then I think it was about 4 weeks of actual construction to get all this done. So a very tight schedule, had to account for weather, had to account for, all of those other issues that you just don't know going into it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that's part of the unique combination that we provide with DEPCOM Solar Support and Power Factor is, I can't stress it enough. Going to, a certain company and expecting them to handle this all. This is a small scope. It's a complicated scope. I mean, there's a deconstruction phase, there's a salvaging phase, there's reconstruction. Like Austin said, you're going to run into issues when you do a job like this. And you've got to have the right team there, because the last thing you need in a situation where you're recovering from a disaster is certainly, a safety incident. You don't want that ever, but you've got to have the right people on the job that know what they're doing. And I think we're building a lot of experience here. You'll read that in our white paper. I recommend downloading that. Also following our LinkedIn, we'll continue to post, as we can, additional stories and work that we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. The best part of our job is that we get to see this stuff and talk about it and help the industry get better. Overall, solar support, DEPCOM, Power Factor, we've all grown up in the solar industry. It is critical for us to come together as an industry and really work together to solve these green energy issues that everyone's facing right now, things that no one's really expected to have to do before.
Yeah. So do we want to take the time to see if we can find any questions or comments that we can pull to the front?
Yeah, we have about 6 minutes left. So Q&A time, guys. If you're in the audience, if you have a question about what we're doing, what we've done in the past, please feel free to reach out to us now in the comments. If you're just now joining us, sorry you missed the show. This recording will be up shortly. And then we have the restoration white paper. If you guys are interested in reading more or want to talk to us about some of this stuff, you can see we've got multiple scrolling bars here. You click on any one of these of your choice or follow the link to get to it. And then, yeah, once again, if you have any questions, let me know. Cool. Jason, yeah, come back in, buddy.
Sure. No, this is really great. It's really great. So, it seems that the technology can be used with any kind of inverter manufacturer, any kind of installation. Are there any places where you have in particular strong operations?
That's the great thing about this partnership, is that we're able to dispatch, I don't want to say globally, that'd be insane, but at least here in North America, we're able to get out on site very quickly. In some cases within 2 weeks. It just depends on having the contract in hand. But for the most part, we're very flexible in getting on site, getting the work completed in a timely manner. And one of the biggest things that we do is, if you saw that slideshow that I showed earlier with the plan, we like to make sure that we communicate that plan very clearly to our customers, to the asset owners, and then to the insurance companies that may be involved here, because a lot of times they are wondering, who's going to do this? How's it going to look like? Are you actually spending the money that we're giving you? They're looking at all of that information. And so having a detailed plan that you can put in front of them and say, hey, look, this is what we're doing. This is the budget. This is what it costs. When you run into issues, having that transparency to be like, hey, there's an issue here. We're having a problem. And this is how we're going to fix it. And getting their buy-in is just, it's so huge. And so we can pretty much go anywhere you need to within North America.
Yeah. And so one thing I wanted to add to that, and I forgot to mention this during the presentation, but part of what we do, it isn't just to fix the plant and put it back the way it is, but it's also to address the underlying issue. If there's a major problem, we're going to take care of that. In this case, we redid the drainage scheme for the plant. And the reason we were elevating these skids, the inverters were back in operation, but we elevated the skids so that it addressed the flooding risk. They are no longer at risk of flooding. Well, I guess I can't say that. Who knows in 20, 30 years? But they're so far above the floodplain, there's virtually no longer a risk. So that's great for the stakeholders and the insurance company. And then the only other thing I wanted to add is, our scope doesn't stop at flooding. We've also done a major wind damage restoration project that has gone extraordinarily well. Before we've even completed the project, it's the energy output is exceeding what the plant has ever done before. So anyway, and then repowering, of course, we've heard of some really unique situations like fires and things like that on the West Coast. But yeah, any disaster recovery, we're able to help with that.
Yeah, so you have a question coming in right now, you guys. What happens when a mishap, like a fire accident in a building with a PV system? So that would be a case where, we'd have to look at the building. We'd pull in engineers to make sure the building's still structurally sound. If there was any kind of forensics associated with that, we want to make sure that we let that has happened in the past. We've had to have a forensics team in to verify, for the insurance company to make sure everything, is on the up and up. After that's all taken care of and they give us the go ahead, we will jump in there and, get everything put back together. And if it's a fire, it depends on how bad it is, but you're looking at potentially respecing the entire system. If it's minimal damage, then it's a matter of sourcing different modules, because that's the thing. All this stuff goes out of production. When these components and these sites, because these sites aren't brand new, when these components go out of production, you're looking at finding a brand new solution. You can't just assume that you can just go grab those same 600-volt modules off the shelf. They're not there anymore.
Yeah, and I'll add that preserving the conditions is really important. If there's going to be any sort of an insurance claim, if there's any, well, really damage in general, especially if somebody gets hurt. So, you know, we're critical of that to make sure it's preserved and you get approval to start doing the work. And then the final part that I'll add is documentation. Documentation is really critical with the insurance companies. Every step of the way, you've got to maintain clear documentation that's shared with everybody.
Yep, exactly. We got 2 more questions. What's the most craziest thing we've seen in devastated systems?
Oh boy, we've seen a lot. The bifacial module, a panel in a panel.
Yeah, one of the photos we couldn't share today. We actually have a panel in a panel. Early bifacial module of development in progress.
Yeah, the disaster that you see from wind damage is it's really impressive to see the impressive in a bad way, but to see the post completely twisted. I mean, it looks like a soda can. Yeah. And this is high grade steel. Like, this stuff is made to withstand a lot of force.
And to be clear, you know, go ahead, Jason. What was that?
Yeah. I was just going to say, one more question came in and about how you can work with insurance companies to make sure that you're getting the most from your insurance policy, the insurance payout.
That, you know, we specialize in that. I mean, we've been in multiple cases now, working hand in hand with the insurance company. We found that, you know, transparency is the best thing that you can do. If they're comfortable, if they can see you know what you're doing, if they can see you know, progress reports. We typically issue daily progress reports along with a weekly follow-up, so they see exactly what's happening on site, so they know, you know, they know what's going on, and that gives them they feel comfortable releasing payment at that point. They feel comfortable, you know, funding the claim because they can see progress is happening. It's very clear with our documentation.
Yeah, and having worked in insurance myself, I mean, I'm just curious if, as you mentioned, you're able to get the site back to even better condition than it was before. Does that lead to a potential discount on insurance premiums for the policyholder?
Well, I don't think we've explored that yet. You know, that wasn't the intention. It was just to get the plant back operational. And I will say a major factor in this case was DEPCOM O&M had taken over the project, and they were working on taking care of the rest of the work that needed to be done on the project. So there were a few factors that played into that, but just amazing in the middle of restoration to say, hey, look, this plant's been in operation 3 years and it's never hit these power levels.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't expect there will be a discount in premiums.
Yeah, but still, I mean, potentially better than it was before. So great.
Yeah.
Great. All right.
This is a photo of what this looked like when we finished. I just found this for if anyone wants to see what the finished, not quite finished product, but almost there. We ended up doing some grade over here as well. But this is what it eventually came out looking like.
Yeah.
Okay. And with that, I think that I want to say thank you, Austin. Thank you, Cliff, for a wonderful session. And again, as mentioned, don't forget to click on the button for downloading the white paper, and we will take it from there.
Cool.
Okay. Thanks a ton for having us.
Thank you, Nico. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Take care. Have a great one.
You too.